My 3-year, 6-day march to victory. Hi, I'm Stephen Schaumler. Delighted you are here. Welcome to episode 3 of my 6-part series titled Pursuing the Life My Heart Longed For. Now, there are 2 previous episodes before this one. I encourage you to go watch those. And there's also an episode 0 if you want to get a brief overview of what this series is all about. So when episode 2 ended, it was January 1, 2012. That's where we're at in the story I was telling. I had published my first article that I'd written on my own website about food carts. I'd posted it on Facebook, and I was just enthusiasm on fire. And just to recap, the summer of 2011, I decided that I was going to build myself a whole new career out of thin air. I was going to upgrade my life both personally and professionally. My specific game plan, I was going to write articles about Portland food carts. I was going to post them on my own website. I was going to harness the power of storytelling, leverage the power of social media, build myself a professional brand, and somehow, some way that would grow into a full-time career. That was my game plan. Now, for about the first 18 months, probably the first 12 months of that endeavor, I started January 1, 2012, and for all of 2012 and into maybe the first 6 or 7 months of 2013, I had 2 particular heartaches. One of them was people all the time to say to me, well, how's this going to work? How are you going to monetize this? I see you doing this effort, but how's this effort going to lead to you having a full-time career so you can ditch your day job? And I would say, I learned quickly just to say, I don't know. And they'd look at me like I'd lost my mind. They're like, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I don't know. And I found out along the way, as I've helped people with life change, that often people have a good game plan and they may need to adjust it, but they need to head out after. They need to start pursuing something and they make adjustments along the way. And a lot of people never set out pursuing something. They never head out for the change that their heart is just aching for because they don't have it all figured out. They don't have the how answered correctly. And for so many people, the how holds them back. And I never let the how hold me back. I had no idea how it was going to monetize. I just knew that, the language I have now, I just knew that if I did this, it would work. The language I have now is that if you start out as a content creator, you can put up a website and start writing articles people can read, or you can start out with a podcast that people listen to, or you can start out making videos that people watch. And if you stick with it and you stay at it and you're compelling and you're interesting and you don't quit, because most people quit, you can grow that into a professional brand and you can grow that to a full-time career. I've done it. I've helped people do it. It works. Lots and lots of people have done it. I didn't have all that content creator language then, but I knew what I had read. I knew what I believed, and I knew what I saw, and I knew somehow, some way it was going to work out for me. I probably beat that drum too much, but man, don't let the lack of how it's all going to work out keep you from getting started. Now, the second heartache I had, particularly during those first 12 months, I had a lot of people telling me that I would not succeed, that I would not make it. I had people telling me things like, who do you think you are? You'll never succeed. You're not going to make it. Do you know how many people want to be published that never get published? Do you know how many food writers there are in Portland that aren't successful, that don't have full-time jobs? Do you know how many people want to make it? Who do you think you are that you succeed? You've turned your back on God. You've left your calling. You have no business trying to be rich and successful. And here's the kicker. I didn't hear that comment from strangers. Strangers I would meet, they're like, oh, that's so cool you're doing this. Oh, that's so awesome. Well, look, you're making progress. I heard these criticisms, these discouragements, these people telling me that I would not make it, that I was crazy, that I was out of my mind, that I was foolish, that I was wasting my time. I heard that from family and friends. And let me tell you right now, if you're going to be pursuing something in your life, if you're going to make a positive change in your life, if you're going to head out after improving yourself professionally, maybe you want to become an author and you start writing, maybe you want to start a band, maybe you want to start a business, maybe you want to learn to play the piano. If you start pursuing something, be very careful who you tell, and only tell people who would cheer you on. And let me give you a really, really important pro tip. Write this down. It will not be your family and friends. Your family and friends will not be cheering you on. It's very, very rare that I work with people whose family and friends cheer them on. It's not that your family and friends are bad. This is a Spark to Bonfire, teaching I did make on a Spark to Bonfire video, a whole teaching about it. But in a nutshell, your family and friends often do not have the gift of vision. People that say, oh, I see where I'm at now and I could go over here, they have the gift of vision. They see what could be. And not only do your family and friends not have the gift of vision, they can't see what could be. They can't see you becoming something different. And worse yet, they often don't see you as you are right now. They see you as you were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And they haven't let go of those old images. And so it's almost impossible for them to cheer you on or encourage you. So like I said, if you set out to do something, be very careful who you tell. Tell people who will cheer you on, and it probably won't be your friends and family. And for me, yes, as I mentioned, I had a lot of heartache that first year and a half from people, family and friends not cheering me on. Now, I was lucky. I did have a handful of people cheering me on. My friend Ken Wilson, he was incredibly helpful. He went with me in my early food cart adventures. He made me this most incredible logo, and I was able to use that and put it on business cards early on. And I had some business cards. Man, when you get business cards, stuff just gets real. You have to do something. If you're starting a new professional brand, you have to do something that legitimizes that brand to you. And I had some business cards. That was amazing. I got a red rain jacket that matched the color on the cool business cards. And so I felt like I had an outfit and I was set. Another person that encouraged me tremendously was my dear friend Kevin Brissett. Early on, he took that red rain jacket and that logo on the business cards. He had it put on the back. He got it screen printed on the back of that red rain jacket. I tell you, that was beautiful. I felt so cool. I had an official food cart outfit. I had my business cards. And Kevin always encouraged me. So grateful for his support. And another person who always encouraged me tremendously was my son Zane. Zane gave me so much encouragement. If he said once, he said it 100 times. You're doing great, Dad. Just keep going. You're doing great, Dad. Just keep going. So yes, I had a lot of family and friends discouraging me, but I did have a few people who did provide me encouragement. I'm so grateful for their encouragement. If you have people encouraging you, man, those people are gold. They are so important. Be so grateful if you have people cheering you on. Now, all that pain that I had from the discouragement I got, it led to two things. One, I developed a chip on my shoulder, a big chip on my shoulder. I kind of have a defiant streak inside me that kind of comes out in different times, unexpected times. And when you tell me I can't do something, okay, I'll show you I am actually going to do it. But I had this chip, this bitterness there that wasn't actually helpful to my journey. But then on the good side, something that did come out of all that misery, it led me years later to start what I call my Bonfire Trailblazer community. It's a community of people, we cheer each other on. We're all people trying to do something. We're pursuing something. We're blazing a trail toward the life our hearts long for. We cheer each other on. And this year in 2023, one of my major objectives is to formalize that community so it's easier for people to be involved, easy for people to cheer each other on, because I know what it's like to feel like you're totally alone with very few people encouraging you. And I say that's absolutely awful. So a good thing about all that misery was the Bonfire Trailblazer community. So let's go back to January 2012. Two big things happened that month that led directly to the life and the career I have now. The first one is I put out my first article January 1, 2012. And when that first weekend in January came, man, I went off to that food cart and I showed them, hey, I wrote an article about your food cart. And I put up photos and I'm so excited. And they were like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I said, well, you need to share this on your social media. You need to share this on your Facebook and tell people someone wrote an article about you and that they're celebrating you. And I started to explain to them, how to do that. And they said, well, we don't know how to do that. And I go, what? So yeah, we don't know how to do it. So well, I'll teach you. I started teaching them how to leverage the power of social media, harness the power of storytelling so they could build their personal brand and build their business and improve their life. And that experience right there became the foundation that eventually grew into my company, Spark to Bonfire, where we help people grow their brands, grow their businesses, and change their lives. The second thing that happened in January is now I've got to go to other food carts and I got to take photos and start writing articles. And so I went to 4 different food carts, new to me in January. And I went to the first one, great food, great people. Okay, write an article. Second one, great food, great people. Third one, great food, great people. The fourth one, terrible food, great people. Like what? Kind of like, what was this all about? This is not how it goes. All the food carts in Portland must have amazing food and great people. And the people at that fourth cart, I liked them a lot, but the food was absolutely terrible. I didn't know what to do, and I felt terrible. So I went back 4 different times, spending money I didn't really have, trying to somehow, what do I do? And I finally realized I can't do it. I can't write about them and say, this is a terrible food cart, don't go. And I thought, well, to heck with it. If I don't love it, I'm not going to write about it. And that led to me eventually realizing, the style I have now is I'm a celebratory writer. I go on adventures, I find things that I love, and then I celebrate them and I write about them. And now I create podcasts about them, make videos about them, but it's things that I find that I absolutely love. One anecdote from early in my journey related to this, being a celebratory writer, I ran into a somewhat prominent Portland food writer, and they said, well, this was early in my journey. You're not really a food writer. You're just a cheerleader for food carts. And I mentioned I had that chip on my shoulder, and I said, you're right. That's exactly what I am. The pom-poms are free. I charge extra for the mini skirt. And this person just did not know what to do with that. They didn't know if I was serious or not, but that was not appropriate. That was not cultured. I should not have done that. Like I said, I had a chip on my shoulder. But definitely, this person did not like the fact that I was a celebratory writer. But I never wrote an article saying I love something where I didn't actually love it. And that idea that I would go on adventures, find things I loved and shared it, that grew into the company, my second company, Culinary Treasure Network. We are passionate about magnificent meals, inspiring food, soul-satisfying travel, and the people behind the places we love. When I have people come on and start writing for me, I tell them, write to me about things that inspired you, places that inspired you, trips you want other people to go on, restaurants you want people to eat at, meals that you absolutely loved, dishes or cocktails you thought were amazing. And people that want to write that, those are the people that want on my team. And what's cool is I have fans that look forward to that type of content. Now, there's lots of different ways to skin a cat. Why we need to skin cats, I don't know. That's a horrible phrase. But there's lots of different ways to go about something. That's just the way that I went about it. For a long time, it kind of felt, oh, is that okay that I do it? And now I'm so glad I do it. It just fit who I am. It's part of me finding my writer's voice, which led to me having the soul and the spirit of my company, Culinary Treasure Network. So starting January 1, 2012, for about the first 18 months, I put in 10 to 20 hours a week roughly on my side hustle, building my professional brand. Now, here's a pro tip. Don't miss this. I also, although I didn't know it, I was also building my personal brand. Yes, I was building my professional brand, writing about food carts, but I was also building the Stephen Shomler brand. I didn't know how important that would be. But I'm telling you, a successful personal brand will help you get there faster. In fact, I'm writing a book. I've got a book right now I'm working on. The title is You Can Get There Faster: How to Build Successful Personal Brand. If you want to go follow it on Instagram, the Instagram account is You Can Get There Faster. But I have learned over and over again, whatever your endeavor is, whether you have a bakery or you're starting a business doing some such thing, selling widgets, it's good to develop the professional brand for your endeavor. But at the same time, also make sure you give some oxygen energy to building a successful personal brand, because that will help you get where you're going much faster. So, first couple episodes, we had a lot of time summer 2011. I've talked a lot about January 1, 2012 and January 2012. Now we're going to skip ahead to August 2013. 2 really big things happened August 2013. So I mentioned I've been putting 10 to 20 hours a week into my side hustle up until that point. And then as professionally, I was working side jobs and stipend jobs and whatever I could do while I was looking to find full-time work to support my family. And finally, the first week of August 2013, I started a full-time job, do my part, gonna support my family. I was so excited to have a job and have the paycheck. And when I got there, it was like, are you kidding me? It was a terrible company, terrible culture, an industry I didn't like. I had a great boss, so grateful for my boss. My boss was absolutely amazing, kept me sane. But it was an industry that didn't work for me, industry where there was a lot of things that I found that were unethical, and I'd say, well, this is unethical. And people would say, oh, everybody does it this way. And then I discover everybody in that industry did it that way. And the companies with experience, I would talk to clients and they'd say, oh yeah, everybody does it this way. We just have to deal with it. I'm like, you shouldn't have to deal with it. This is just not okay. So I had that challenge going on, and it's the first time in my life I had a job where I was trapped at a desk. 8 to 5, I'm at a desk. Up until this point in my journey, if I had a desk job, I would leave, go see clients, come back. I was never trapped at a desk. I remember one time like, hey, I sold the client, go get a contract signed. Oh, well, if the contract's to be signed, you have to have an outside salesman go sign it, and then they split the commission. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I am not going to do that. Well, you can't leave. I said, well, I get a lunch. Well, if you come back late from lunch, I'm going to have to fire you. And I said, well, that's fine. If I come back 10 minutes late from lunch and I have a signed contract, maybe you won't fire me. And if I don't come back, then maybe you will, but I'm not going to give up half my commission to an outside agent. And my boss looked at me like I'd lost my mind. The next day, as soon as lunch was up, I was out the door. I went and I met that client. I got the contract signed. I was back 10 minutes late from lunch. That was a naughty, naughty no, but I was waiving my signed contract. I wasn't going to keep all of my commission. It's just crazy, ridiculous rules. It just was not a good fit for me. But again, I was grateful for the paycheck. But now, first week of August 2013, I'm at a desk 8 to 5, 40 hours a week at a day job that I am not fired up about other than the paycheck. So getting that job was the first big thing that happened August 2013 in my life and in my life change journey. The second thing that happened August 2013 is the third week of August, I got my first book contract. I got a contract from a publisher. I write the book. I get it done. I do it their way, their rules. They will publish my first book. And I'll tell you, I was so excited. Now that had been literally one of my stated goals, and I conducted my social media in such a way to attract a publisher. I put it out into the universe. I believe that the universe is pulling for you. I put out into the universe that I would attract a publisher, and sure enough, I did, and I had a book contract. And a lot of those people that told me I couldn't do it, that I wouldn't succeed, for a lot of them, simply showing them the book contract, that made them shut the hell up. Now, I had that chip, and I was not mean to them about it, but I also wasn't entirely nice about it, because I'm like, I have evidence now. Look, I'm going to be a real author. I'm going to be a real published author. But that didn't work for all of those people. Some of those people were like, well, what do you mean published? Like you can't be a published author. Is this like a real publisher? Is this going to be a real book? And what I wanted to say is, no, I'm going to color the photos in crayon, and I'm going to copy it on a copier downstairs, and I'm going to staple the pages together with a stapler. Yes, it's a real book. Like, your book's going to be in like bookstores? Yes, my book is going to be on bookstores. And they just they still couldn't believe it. It wasn't until I actually saw the book the next year that they actually believed that it happened. And so, even having a real life book contract wasn't enough to get some of those people to actually believe in me or support me or quit discouraging me. But hey, I got my first book contract. I was fired up about that. But now I got a 40-hour weekday job, and now I need to put time into getting this book done. And an additional challenge I had is I needed to learn how to use a real Canon camera, because iPhones at the time didn't take good enough photos for publication, for printing. And the publisher, they loved the photos. I eventually became a very good photographer, and the photos I had on my food cart website, they loved those photos, and they wanted to have 16 pages in the center of the book of color food photos that I would have, which was just awesome. But I didn't know how to use a camera like that. I didn't know f-stop and adjustment and lenses, and I had some friends who were photographers, and they just forget it. You can't learn it in time. It's impossible. We're not going to help you. It's an impossible task. So, I got a little bit of defiance streak in me. You tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it anyways. I went down to Pro Photo Supply. Someone helped me come up with the money. They helped me, and I eventually paid them back to get $5,000 to buy this really cool Canon camera and some lenses. And the gentleman at Pro Photo Supply thought it was hilarious, but he helped me and got me a couple different lenses. He taught me enough to be dangerous. And I went, and all the photos and all of my books so far, now there's 2 books I've written, and the third one I've contributed to. The photos there's photos in those books that I have taken that I'm super proud of. So I did figure that out. But I have to put in time for all of that, for the photos, for the photo shoots, for the interviews. So I ended up working 40 hours a week at my day job and 40 to 60 hours a week on my side hustle. Now I'm working for about the next 18 months, from August 2013 to January 6, 2015. I'm working about most weeks about 80 to 100 hours a week. And I know that sounds insane and crazy, but I was hungry. I wanted a different career. I wanted a different life, and that was the price I had to pay. And I don't know what price you're going to have to pay, but I've never worked with anybody who's battling for a long-held dream, who's putting in a lot of hard work to completely change their life, that has not had to pay some kind of price. You know, one of the bugs I own is pay the price, live the dream. If you want to live the dream, you are going to have to pay the price, and that was one of the prices I had to pay. Now, I got that contract in August. I think they wanted the book done in November or December. I got the book done in January, a little bit late, but close to on time. That first book came out in April of 2014. I finally was able to buy myself a copy on April 17th, 2014. I was so excited. That was the day I became an author. I mentioned that in episode 2. Now, one interesting note, when I finally hit send on that contract and I finished and sent my final manuscript off to the publisher, I emailed it off to them. That next day, I immediately started my second book. And I'd been communicating with the publisher, hey, I'm going to write a book similar to I wrote the book on Portland food carts, and I'm going to start a book on Portland breweries. And I think my first book's going to sell well enough. You're going to want to give me a second book contract. And sure enough, my first book sold well enough. And by the summer of 2014, I had my second book contract, and that book came out the summer of 2015. I was very strategic in the things I did to make sure that my first book would sell well enough to get a second book contract. My second book sold well enough, I was able to get a third book contract. And we'll talk about that third book contract in this next episode. But the title of this episode is my 3-year, 6-day march to victory. And those 3 years and 6 days are January 1, 2012 to January 6, 2015. So let's skip ahead to the end of this episode. Let's skip ahead to January 6, 2015. I go into my day job. I think it was a Tuesday morning, and the company had moved. We used to be in this place in Portland, in this building, and up on one of the upper floors, and I had a little cubicle, and they moved us all to Vancouver to this big, huge football-size open air space. The wall to my cubicle came up just not even to the height of my desk. It was an absolute, for me as an introvert, it was an absolute nightmare. You could look and see and look at everybody. Oh my gosh, it was just terrible. What a horrible way to warehouse people and have people work to me. It just felt inhumane, didn't work for me at all. I think the extroverts might have liked it because it was just a party they could chat and do stuff. And I had a group of 5 or 6 people, on my team. We all did the same thing. And there was 3 or 4 groups of 5 or 6 people with people all doing the same thing we did and a manager. And I started noticing they started taking different teams doing what we did into an office. And I went, wait a minute, I think this looks, I know what this is. I've been through corporate firings. I think they're letting us all go. And sure enough, they take a team into the little conference room and they say, okay, no, don't say anything. But then people are texting people they know on one of the other teams. The word gets to us that they're going to let us go. And really what they're going to say is, well, you can let go and we'll give you a small severance package, or you can take a really crappy job. You think this job's crappy, we'll give you a really crappy job in the low-paying customer service department, where we don't give them any help or support. You deal with angry people all day long. Now it's a much lower paying job, but you don't have to take a pay cut. You can keep your job, your pay, but you're going to do this really awful work with terrible managers. And I'm like, I just cannot do that. And they were getting ready to take our group into the room and tell us what was going to happen, and then we tell them what we're going to do. And I called my dear friend Arthur Brewer. I'm so grateful for him, every day of my life. And I'd gotten to know him. I was at a speaking engagement from our first book, and that's how we got to know each other. And he's just a dear friend. And I called him and said, Arthur, they're laying off everybody. He answered, and they're laying off everybody, that's on in our division that's doing the things we do. And I'm tempted to take their small severance package and go for it and become self-employed and make it happen. I think I'm close to going for it and just kind of use this as a push out of the nest to go for it. And he encouraged me. He said, go for it, Stephen, you can make it. And boy, his encouragement meant so much. And I'll tell you, that was it. That was the day I ditched my day job. I was so happy. January 6, 2015. I've been self-employed ever since. January 6th every year is just a special day to me. It's like, oh, another year of self-employment. It's absolutely awesome. And so, yeah, that was my 3-year and 6-day march to victory. So what happened next? Well, that you'll have to watch episode 4. I will see you there.